Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good. In late December, I got to speak to one of our next guests, and it was really just this fascinating conversation that I really treasured. And we get to speak with him again today for a new project he is working on. So Evan "Kid" Bogart is a Grammy-winning multi-platinum songwriter whose work has really defined pop music for the last 2 decades. He's written hits for Beyonce, Rihanna, Lizzo, Demi Lovato. And then we have Justin Gray, also a prolific songwriter, producer, innovator, has worked with artists like Mariah Carey, John Legend, Joss Stone, and also a huge advocate for songwriters' rights, and really an amazing mind in the intersection of music and tech. And together, they have teamed up for this kind of amazing new movie project that gets released in theaters this Friday. And they have written the music for this, and this is like a full soundtrack, and you get to see the songs in the film. This film is Juliet and Romeo, and the cast is stacked. You got Jason Isaacs, Rebel Wilson, Dan Fogler, and even Derek Jacobi, for God's sakes. It is a retelling of the amazing Shakespeare classic, of course, Romeo and Juliet. So here they are, Evan "Kid" Bogart and Justin Gray. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great intro. I need to bring you everywhere I go. That's amazing.
No, I mean, I can't do an intro for you guys because every time I research any one of you, there's a billion songs that pop up dating back for the last 20 plus years. And each one of those could be a podcast in itself. But we're here to talk about this project. And I just wanted to say, like, what brought you guys into working together on this, and what is your relationship before this project?
Well, we met on J-Date. No,
all great songwriters do meet on J-Date, yeah.
And our relationship before this project was more than platonic. No. Yeah, no, I mean, Justin and I have known each other.
Not uncommon.
Justin and I have known each other for 15 years. Is that 15 years now?
At least
15 years now. And have, written songs and worked with artists in some fashion here and there, for that whole time. And we become, fast friends and best of friends, and now, collaborators, business partners. It's great.
Well, I mean, Justin, how was this idea? Like, how did you get approached for this idea to do this movie project where you're writing all of the songs, telling the story? How do you even begin to approach this, and how were you approached in the first place to work on this?
Well, I'll set it up, and I think Evan can really put a lot of color and context to this. I was pulled into this project many years ago, probably close to 10 originally, to start writing songs for this sort of idea that Tim Bogart had, with Tim Scott Bogart, who's the director of the film. And we just started writing, and I was one of the writers that was a part of a camp that Evan was putting together. And we were already writing together. We were already doing work together. But we just connected on a very creative level. And it really was funny because these songs were done. They kind of sat there. And then in August of 2022, Evan called me and said, "Do you remember those songs we wrote? I need to get some details on those because I think that there's a movie that's happening." But Evan, if you want to talk a little bit about sort of the concept of the camps and what you put together and how these all came about.
Wait, so these songs were already written pre-movie, and
they were written. Kind of. The movie originally started off. We were developing a TV show, which has transformed into the movie. So we started writing the songs for a limited series. That was the idea, was we were going to do a limited series retelling of Romeo and Juliet as a musical. And then as we started developing it, the general idea, the general concept around it started to make more sense as a feature. And so we turned it into a feature, and then decided which of those songs that we were using, that we had written for the series, still made sense for the film, and then jumped in and wrote a bunch of new songs that would, filled out the rest of it. Because there's slightly different approach when you're doing it as a series versus as a film. And so, a few great songs actually didn't make it into the movie, because they just didn't fit the telling of it as a feature as they did differently as a series.
What's it like working actually on a project where you're telling like this very, I mean, by the way, this Shakespeare story, everybody knows this story, and it's very different than writing one song for one person. You are like charting the emotional ups and downs of these characters throughout this entire project. What's that like to actually take on? I mean, you have 15 songs that are on this soundtrack. What is that? I mean, how different is that than just writing one song or one hit for one artist?
Do you want to take that, or do you want me to take that?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would say this, that when you're looking at a song as it pertains to a body of work, and understand how the first song in the movie Stranger, in a way, leads us all the way to the last song of the movie, which is in the end. Technically, it's a different song, but let's say in the end, and understanding how these songs work as supporting the narrative, how they work in terms of the voice of the characters that are singing those songs. It's not, it's kind of easy to write one song, but understanding how 15 songs interact with each other across the soundtrack, and make sure that, the audience that's there isn't going to get bored and be like, oh, they use that same trick in song 2. So, really helping, having to craft songs independently of each other, but yet work together as a cohesive body of work, I think is the biggest trick. But, understanding, Evan is actually fantastic to collaborate with, and I guess that's why we've probably written hundreds of songs together. But he is so good at creating a visual interpretation of what a song should sound like. So he'll say like, "Oh, imagine this song, but what if it was like, Timbaland meets this person meets that person," and I'm able to sort of interpret that language of his, and that's how we sort of get off the jumping point. So he's so good at the sort of the creative manifestation of where the direction of the song should go, because most of these songs were very primitive in the way that they were recorded for the movie. Like, it was, in many cases, it was like a kick drum and a piano and vocals, and then we sort of colored the songs after the fact. So that's where Evan is such an incredible collaborator. Is he just knows how to describe exactly where it should go creatively, and it works.
I mean, Evan, how much?
Keep going.
No, but I will say one thing. I will say one thing, because he laughs. But Evan, what is my nickname for you?
There's so many. Which one?
I know the PG-13 ones. Eagle ears. I always call him Eagle ears.
He does call me Eagle ears because I hear things that a lot of people don't hear. So I don't know.
It's crazy. But, like I'll do. I'll drop a verse. Like
it's also voices in my head that I hear too. So it's not always positive.
But like I'll send like a mix, like an updated mix of a song for him to listen to, and they'd be like, "Where is that sound?" And I'm like, "Oh shit! Oh yeah, I muted that by accident." Like he'll hear like the craziest, most subtle changes, and it's like, it's amazing, and it's like, I have learned my lesson. Like, I cannot sneak a single thing past him. He's just so good, and I've literally never met somebody that can put themselves so inside of a song. I'm not just saying I say it if he wasn't here. It's an incredible feat, and that's why I call him Eagle Ears.
Well, Evan, I'm going to give you a chance to say something nice about Justin.
Don't interrupt Justin.
This guy is. Let him cook. Let him cook right now.
He's just getting started. He's just getting started.
I'm waiting for the reciprocal.
Yeah.
What does Justin bring to it, in your opinion, Evan?
He's Canadian.
That's okay. Have a good day, guys.
He brings a love and a deep knowledge for hockey and poutine. True story, used to have a mullet. Hockey mullet, which was great.
I felt that. Yeah.
No, I mean, Justin's incredible at everything. So it's hard for me to pinpoint one thing, but I mean, everything from, what's interesting about that, because this is a compliment I'll give Justin, that is jumping off of what he said, which is basically that I may be able to hear where a song should go, but with very little direction, Justin's able to interpret that into a masterpiece. And he's able to take a very small comment of mine and know exactly what I'm talking about, and take that and embellish it into something that's I was like, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking, which is crazy because the way I said it was not articulate at all. And the way he interpreted it turned out to sound like he was inside of my head and he could hear all of it. So we work, to Justin's point, like his musicianship, his knowledge of, working with artists for decades. Sorry, I didn't mean to age you when I said that.
Oh my God, that is so, I'm so old.
Oh wow, here we go. We've lost the kids.
I'm working with artists, vocal production, interpreting, A&Ring in the room, being able to play every instrument you can think of, on this project alone, like besides, actually sitting there and writing the songs, it was, conducting horn sections and string sections and vocal groups, group vocals, vocal producing individuals, stars who haven't been the best, doesn't have the most experience singing, to the most experienced singers, to us getting Derek Jacobi to rap, to actually on set conducting fake bands that we put together in the background, who had to play our songs banging ladles on buckets. It's a very diverse skill set that Justin brings, especially with conducting people to bang ladles on buckets. That's
ladles on buckets is Justin's big thing, from what I hear. But
yeah,
it's literally in my bio.
Buckets, ladles on buckets of poutine.
Yeah, who played buckets on? The thing I want to also for any parents listening, this is a movie to take your kids to, and actually you'll be able to stream the entire soundtrack. But there is such a pop centric, obviously through both of your careers, but on this soundtrack, I mean, this thing you will bop to. It is sweeping. It is grand in the best way. And I found myself humming certain things that I think your kids are going to love this. And also the modern retelling of a story.
You have these in Justin in what we were doing, and in Tim's love for, both stage and film, and telling that together, right? And his, Tim's history of both directing on stage and directing film and TV, and kind of combining that all into this one project, and our history of also writing and producing and creating pop music, but also our love and affection for the world of musical theater, and for me, that goes back to when I was a kid, and my mom would take me to every show on Broadway and everything like that. But also in my mind, musical theater always extended to not only Broadway, but for me, things and you can hear it in some of our songs in this film, like Mel Brooks, and very comedic, tongue-in-cheek kind of musical parody, which I love, and to me, the other part of musical theater that I absolutely love, which is Disney movies. Alan Menken, genius, right? For me, growing up on all of those incredible, even the Sherman Brothers, going all the way back, growing up on all of that music with the Sherman Brothers and Alan Menken, all the way through, through now the Lopez's and Lin-Manuel and everything that happens at Disney. To me, that's also musical theater. And so that to me is the best, a really, really good example of combining pop music and musical theater at the same time are, some of these, things like Encanto or Frozen, I wouldn't say all of that, everything from, Leonard Bernstein to the Sherman Brothers, all the way up to Lin-Manuel and the Pasek and Pauls of our time. It's they're all just so incredible for us. We they all kind of live in this combo world of taking classic and pop and combining them together. And I think our love for all of that is one of what informed us how to pull this off.
I also think what helps is that Evan and I share a very similar musical taste. So, when he says Mel Brooks, The Inquisition, I immediately am yeah, I totally understand exactly 100% what you're talking about. He's referring to specifically a song in the film called I Should Write This Down, which is this really funny interaction between Dan Fogler.
You've seen the film, Ryan?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so the Dan Fogler, Derek Jacobi duet in The Apothecary, right?
Yes.
For us, that was how do we take Master of the House from Les Mis and marry it to the Inquisition from History of the World? Right? How do we combine that as to us, that's a perfect example of these two worlds kind of colliding, right?
Oh my God, Master of the House. I haven't thought about that. But I mean, so you're right. You're totally right now thinking about it. But that's what I was trying to explain to the audience when I've spoken about my love of musical theater, is that it's not scary. You'll find out it's the same principles as some of your favorite pop songs. And on a soundtrack like this, you hear it. You're if you heard this, you're oh, that's a radio friendly song almost. But it also works in the course of what modern day musicals actually are today, or things like you said with Hamilton, or even Rent, or all of these projects are based on the the same musical principles that you guys have studied and worked on your whole life. And that's why I think these things are exciting, because it's not scary. It's actually really entertaining.
Well, where the collaboration works so well is, we would be working on tracks, and, Evan would be back here. I'm definitely more technical. Evan is more, ethereal. He's like, and so we would be working on tracks, and he'd be like, I'm bored. And he wouldn't say it in like this mean way. He would be like I'm bored. We need to move this. Like, we need to get this moving along. So which is a great way to help us recalibrate and rethink literally every single bar, every single 4 bars of the song that we're creating. And as much as sometimes I'm like, but he's right. It's like, okay, he's bored. Okay, you know what? I'm bored too. Always. But the good thing is like, but if he's bored, the audience is going to be bored. So
exactly.
What we need to do is okay, what do we need? How are we going to switch it up? And actually, a song like I Should Write This Down is a really great example. I mean, there's so many little gaffes and gags and gimmicks in the song that we're like, okay, right here is where the apothecary and the friar need to interact, and we need to have a really funny interaction. And so the "we're bored" comment happened a lot, and that, I think, really pushed the creativity of
for all of it. I mean, how we take all of these songs and we push the narrative with all of them. We were constantly, rearranging songs, rewriting parts, changing the production. And then of course, you said before 15 songs. It's like, we take 15 original songs and you put them in a film. Like, how do you get people to remember 15 songs? So I think how many minutes of the movie are not music? 7 minutes of it. The movie's 2 hours and 1 minute, and 7 minutes is not music.
Yeah, I read that fact. It's wild.
We were tasked to then do, we did the score as well, right? So, we figured out ways of weaving all of the musical themes from the film into the score, so that they became from the songs, so that we were able to seed the songs within the score before you would ever hear the songs. And so we felt like that was the best way that you can get people familiar with 15 original songs in a movie, was make the score rooted in the songs. And so, from the opening number, you hear Streets Are on Fire, like literally the second the movie starts, right? And Derek Jacobi is delivering his monologue at the beginning of the movie, and it's Streets on Fire, and then all of a sudden it morphs into Secrets, and even during, into Strangers. Even while Strangers playing, that song itself starts as a song, goes into score, goes into a different version of the score, goes into another version of the score, goes into another version of the score, and then all of a sudden pops back into the bridge, and then all of a sudden they're singing a duet together. It's like this, but all of that score,
that seems maddening. Like, how do you actually
all of that score is the song? Because
oh my god,
it's all of like, how do we take the song and evolve the song into score, and then evolve it back into song? Well, and that was our kind of the way we look at it.
I think Evan has always described it, which I think is a really apt description to say it is not a musical in the sense of, and now we're going to sing. Like, it's not that.
It's woven, yeah.
It's more of like, music is interwoven into the narrative of the story, and we pop in and out of songs. But like, for example, like in a musical, a song will be, the song starts, the song ends, the story continues. Right? In many cases, in fact, I think in almost every case, it's the song starts, there's score and narrative, and then it comes back. Like, the songs are broken up.
It's continuous.
It's continuous. And so we would write and produce these songs as songs, and then we would hand them to Tim, and he would say, well, it needs to do this and this and this and this. And then we would have to figure out, how do we get from point A to point B with all of the space in the middle? And those two, point A and point B, might be 9 minutes apart, without ever having to take the audience out of it, right? Like, that's the thing that
was the key. That was the key. We had to keep everybody. When you start hearing a song, we never wanted the audience to feel like, okay, I stopped hearing the song. You had to feel like the song was, whether or not someone was performing or not, that song still was happening. You were still listening to the same song. So all of a sudden, when they started singing again, you were like, oh wait, what happened? It's like a seamless flow, right? And so, that was certainly important to us, to figure out how to tell the musical story, have the music itself be its own character within the film.
Well, we have Beat the Same that appears multiple times throughout the course of this. And
Yeah.
can you talk about the importance of that song, or
Yeah,
how you landed
there's
upon that?
certain songs. There's certain songs that became like themes in there. Like so, "Streets on Fire" became kind of like the unofficial theme of like tension and the Capulet, the war brewing between the Capulets and the Montagues. So every time that there's like a fight scene or there's some sort of argument or some sort of tension, the score kind of harkens back to "Streets on Fire," which then culminates with the Tybalt Mercutio showdown, and the song actually it dies with them because you never hear the song again after that, right? Like that's like that's the final "Streets on Fire." It never comes back in the score ever again after that. We bury them all, and Stranger kind of became like this kind of unofficial Romeo and Juliet falling in love anthem. Every time that there's an interaction between them, you start to hear elements of the Song of Stranger playing in the score, right? And so it's a very similar thing. It's actually the only song where the score outlives the song within the movie, because it's the first song in the movie, and so that we bring it back throughout the score. But all the other songs, kind of when you hear the song, that's the last time you hear the song within the score. But "Beat the Same" is literally Romeo and Juliet's anthem, and so we needed that song to be something you heard multiple times. We always knew it was going to be the song we ended the film with, and we always knew it was going to be the song that they finally fall in love with. And then Tim made the decision that instead of them getting married and reading vows, what if they read the lyrics to "Beat the Same" to each other? And so it became their vows, which they did live on set, with Justin off to the side playing keyboards in their ears to make sure they had the right key. Justin was dressed like a minstrel from the 1300s.
With the mullet, that works actually. Yeah,
totally. Well, that was the only song in the movie that was actually reverse engineered. What I mean to say is that when it was the main versions of "Beat the Same," right, whether it was at the front of the movie, I think it's the third or the fourth song in the movie, or when it's at the end of the film, those songs were basically prepared in advance, right? So we knew what we were shooting. That song the idea was let them sing it in real time to each other in their own with their own tempos, and then it was, now let's go build the music around it. So the idea was, they would start, which by the way is not easy because there's no tempo, there's no key, so we had to sort of figure out how do we make this feel totally cohesive and natural, like it happened, because the idea was they would start singing to themselves, and then here comes this swell of music that kind of supports them, and then the music disappears, and then their vows are done, and it's almost like we've been taken into this moment with them. But it's not it's a very unique moment in the film, and I'm not sure that it's ever been done. I'm sure it has been, but for us, figuring out how the music was to enrobe the singers as opposed to the other way around, which is normally what would happen, that became tricky. But I think it worked out. That scene especially, I'm really proud of. I think that worked out great.
I was trying to explain to the audience creative processes on any sort of artistic endeavor. I was like kind of obsessed with that show Severance that just ended its second season, and I was talking about.
Don't tell me what happened. I haven't finished it.
Okay, I won't. Everybody dies. No, but no, I was just talking about the writer's room, and do they obsess about it like the audience obsesses about it? Because once it's released to the audience, we pick it apart and we live with it, and it's really interesting to hear you guys talk about it, because it does seem like there is an obsessiveness that you guys both have to deal with and almost kind of push each other to keep going, because it just seems so daunting. Even to hear you guys talk about it, I don't know where you begin and where you end. And when do you know you actually are finished with a song, especially if you're reverse engineering certain aspects of it?
I think the biggest trick is I think the difference with making, I'd love to hear Evan's perspective on this, but here's my thoughts. The difference with making pop songs versus working on film music is that, pop songs have a little bit of, have enough of a formula that, you kind of get into a session and you know what to do. Where in film, to me, it's like, we have a problem that we need to solve musically. How are we going to do this? It's very unique. Especially, again, if you've ever been involved in making movies, you feel like you have the cut, and then you have the final cut, and then you have the director's Final Cut version 46, and you have Final Cut version 52, and then you have, and so we're always constantly just readjusting as we're going. And in fact, there was a point where Tim's like, "Hey, we need to add 17 seconds back to the intro. We'd already cut the orchestra, so how do we make that? How do we solve that problem and make it all feel seamless?" So that's the part of movie making that I love, which is solving these problems. How can you be creative and also problem solving at the same time? And then again, a lot of times Evan and I will be like, Evan, what do you think? And his perspective might be so different than mine that I wouldn't have thought of his solution or his methodology to get it to the end. And you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I didn't really think of it that way. And then, and then again, problem solved, and so I love the aspect of having to solve the problems, and being able to make it work again seamlessly.
And it's a different form of artistic, I guess, expression than what, like you said, working on a normal pop song where you already know what is needed for that song. This is a whole different can of worms in the best way.
Totally. Like even I make a joke, like when I'm producing this, when I'm working on the productions for the score and I'm opening up some of my sounds and I'm like bringing up a tuba sound, I feel like my computer's like, really, tuba? Because it's just like, it knows I don't do that stuff, So it forces me to really also go deep into my sound bank and again, just like think differently. I've been doing this for a long time. So redoing it this over and over and over and over again, the same way. And again, that's one of the things I love about Evan is he's like, I've already said that and done that. How do I do it differently? How do I say it differently? And I think to his credit, that's how he's managed to maintain true relevance as a songwriter, is because he's always pushing the envelope. And that was applicable across every single thing that we were doing.
How hard is it to not be jaded in some ways because you guys have been doing this for so long? I was just wondering, like, are you still able to feel like extreme pride on something you work on because you guys work on so many different things? Are you able to be like, I am really proud of this very specific thing?
This is, I've never done anything like this. It's like, I'm beyond proud of this specific thing. And then to be able to see it on the big screen is just insane. I mean, I don't take any of that for granted. I mean, how many things we work on that never see the light of day? This has been a labor of love for basically a decade. So, wow. to have it come to life now is pretty special.
Justin, do you feel the same?
It's so, to me, it's I don't want to undervalue how much work it entails to do music for movies. And again, writing a pop song, producing a pop song is very finite, right? But it's the fact that it is constantly living and breathing and growing and changing makes it challenging. And so when you do finally get a chance to watch it on the screen, I literally never remember the 8 different versions of a scene that we scored. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever think about any of the challenges. I'm like, wow, like, that's amazing. We did it. Like, to me, the biggest challenge on this movie was sitting in a tiny van in various different parking lots in this, in this countryside of Italy in the freezing cold, eating dinner out of a plastic cup. Like those were the challenges to me.
That's
like
the glamour of movie making.
Glamour of movie making. Evan and I think we didn't spend that much time at craft services. On occasion we did, but we got tired of that.
It was terrible. What's the craziest thing is it's maddening being in Italy and craft services food is terrible.
It's like laugh. You're in Italy, the best food in the world, and then you're eating like pretzels from a craft service table.
It was like boxes of like roast beef. It was like wilted spinach and roast beef in a box. It was
so you guys were there for the entire filming of this whole project?
Yeah, 3 months.
Yeah.
My God! And how long ago was this shot?
A couple years. Not a couple years. Yeah, a couple years.
And we started in 22, ended at the beginning of 23.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been in post literally since then.
Since February 2023.
I mean, there's so much work that had to go into this.
And by the way,
it's also crazy, right? Like, we make music. I could write a song today and have it out next week, and if it doesn't do well, I can just write another song. Movie making is
you can't just scrap it.
It's so wild. It's wild.
Well, I mean, that's what I was going to say. I think, Justin, you said you were already working on another project in terms of like before we started talking. I think you were working on another film or TV project. But is this something that you want to continue to do, or you're like, is this muscle you want to keep using?
I love it. I mean, Evan and I have a little team called Bogart and Gray. I love it. I literally love making music for movies. I love working on films. It's so much fun to me. I think there's a magic when you get the music and the picture married in just the right way. Severance is a great example of that. Like, I mean, they've just done. I just love that feeling of like, wow, and so yeah, I want to do as much of this as possible. If I never write another pop song with another hit artist, I couldn't care. If I was just doing music for movies, I would be totally happy.
Evan, you got to say that too now.
Nah.
I just want to keep writing with Justin so he can say good things about me.
Well, by the way, because we were waiting for Evan to come here.
By the way, I text all of these nice things to Evan. I'm always sending you nice texts. You know that, and he says
he's cold.
He's
cold-hearted.
And then I do a thumbs up emoji.
No, and then he sends me a link to a story about the Rams.
That's why, dude. That's my dad. I'll give an emotional text to my dad, and he gives like a thumbs up, and I'm like, "What are you doing, man? Give more than a thumbs up. This is why I need his approval so bad." By the way,
I just write back THX. I don't even spell out thanks. Just THX.
Or just a K. By the way, if you're listening to this and not watching this, Evan is sitting underneath his Beyonce plaque. And the last time you were here, we were talking about Halo, and Beyonce is currently in Los Angeles with her Cowboy Carter tour. And I was just thinking, like, for Halo, you were talking about the creation of Halo our first time we talked, and it's one specific voice, or, you're writing it for a specific artist. But like you said, this is so different. How many specific voices do you have in your head? Can you write for anybody, Evan? Like if I said right now, like, I'm upset about this, I'm upset about that, could you legitimately write a song with me? Could you write a song with anybody?
Yeah.
Or for anybody, I mean.
Both.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think I just need to like spend time putting myself into that mindset, into that mind frame. And I don't think there's no limitation to that. It's just how quickly I can really, the key to that is to really be present, and to kind of shut out the world and just really kind of tap into what the feeling is. It's all about making people feel something, right? So I think at the end of the day, if you can really tap into what that feeling is, then you can articulate how to make people feel that way.
Yeah, last time I was talking to you, you were talking about a romantic song, and I just thought, you have this kind of really funny exterior, and you crack a lot of jokes, but I thought, this dude must feel really deeply, like you can really go there. And Justin, I would imagine it's the same for you, where, you're having to put yourself in like Romeo's shoes or Juliet's shoes and these characters, and this is like sacred text, I always imagine if Shakespeare could actually hear this soundtrack,
I cry myself to sleep in a dark closet every night. So,
that's what I wanted to hear. Justin, are you crying yourself to sleep as well?
Yeah. Only usually because I've been completely abused by Evan. He sends me this meme all the time that talks about how friends that tease each other, that roast each other, are 300% more loyal. And so he likes to remind me. That, I think what happens is, there's a song in the movie called Conversations, which is an interesting song because it was in the film, it was out of the film, it was back in the film, and this was a song I think even Tim would probably say, like, he loved this song. He's always loved the song, and at one point he was out. I know the song was out of the film. He was gutted about it, but if you listen to that song in the movie, it's a really sad song. And Evan and I sat and wrote this song, and actually I think I wish I can take credit for this lyric because I think it's so genius. But if you listen to the lyric,
but don't take credit for it.
If you listen to the lyric and the way that the chorus wraps up in that song, it doesn't rhyme. It's totally hung open, and yet it just works so perfect.
Don't be mean.
What's the lyric? What's the lyric?
Well, so the chorus goes, maybe I'm not meant for you. Maybe I'm not meant for you. Maybe you're not meant for me. How's it keep going?
Sometimes hearts are meant to break than meant to be.
Yeah, sometimes hearts are meant to break instead of meant to be.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's so perfect. It just so perfectly encapsulates the story of the song. And that's just two dudes sitting in a room writing love songs to each other.
Two bros, right?
It's broetry.
Yeah.
Don't ever say broetry ever again.
Broetry. Juliet and Romeo, aka broetry. That's a great way to sell this. Broetry. I love that. That's what I was also thinking about in terms of the creative process with you guys is you are now selling this film, or you want as many people to see this and listen to this music. And Justin, I was talking to you briefly before we started about, you're like, oh, we can get a couple, you were talking about another artist getting a couple million streams, which really is just like kind of a drop in the bucket in today's day and age. You're kind of dependent on the TikTok algorithm or something like that. And what is the way that we can get people to watch this or listen to this? And I know it starts with like small things like this show, but what to you is you're like, we got to get this song out there, or we got to get this scene, people to see this.
I mean, I think Evan has a lot more experience with this, but I'll try and set him up. Is that when, again, there's a pretty consistent formula with how to break an artist. And I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but you work Spotify, you work socials, you get them playlisted, they're on the road performing. I don't think you have a lot of those same benefits when you're talking about trying to have music from a musical connect to an audience. I know that I think that even the version of Let It Go from Frozen, I think they tried to cross that over with Demi, but I think really was the version from the movie that had all of the legs. And I'm not sure that anything from Greatest Showman was like a hit per se. I mean, the streaming numbers are amazing. So I guess it's just getting people to the theaters and getting people to talk about it. I think the best advertising is word of mouth, is people saying, oh my gosh, this was amazing, this is incredible. And musicals, I think, too, are funny because I think musicals develop in some ways. Like if you think about like Rocky Horror Picture Show, I think over the years they get more and more credibility. Grease, even Greatest Showman. I think these movies build steam as the years pass.
Oh, The Greatest Showman, very specific, especially that's just grown each year. The streaming numbers for that have grown, and so hopefully we have that same thing happen here. You just I was like, God, I wish like I was back in high school so I could throw this to all my drama club geeks back there. Like we would have so ate this up in the best possible way. What in terms of like Shakespeare himself, were you guys inspired direct? Like, were you big? Did you read all of Shakespeare's works as kids?
I watched Shakespeare in Love.
That's his best work, really. Yeah.
Romeo and Ethel, the Pirate's Daughter. That movie's incredible, by the way. Like that movie really is incredible. Actually, it's so funny. When I was in 10th grade, I got a D on Macbeth. I don't know if that helps at all.
That explains so much.
No, I wasn't particularly like a huge Shakespearean, connoisseur. It wasn't something that, I think my brother definitely was, and it was definitely a passion for him. But I think what resonated with both Justin and I with respect to this project is the emotions and the storytelling that comes with it, and I think that being able to delve deeper into these characters in a way that Shakespeare didn't even do it, if there was a Shakespeare. We don't have to go into that.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Okay, so you know a little bit about Shakespeare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Earth is Flat podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. This ain't Joe Rogan, Evan. Come on.
No, I think being able to explore the relationships that Shakespeare only in some instances barely even mentions or just scratches the surface of, and to explore them in a deeper way, and then for us to be able to explore the emotions behind them in the same way that he would use iambic pentameter or soliloquies, and us using pop music instead, right? Like gives us the opportunity to kind of have these people pour emotion out of their soul. And I don't know. It just sounds like a fun a fun and interesting challenge to do, to kind of take something that's so iconic from such a legendary writer and be able to kind of say, okay, had he continued these stories and had he delved into these relationships more and had he existed in 2025, this is how we feel like he would have done it.
I mean, yeah, without a doubt. So I was talking to JC Chazé last year because he was working on a musical adaptation of the Frankenstein story, the Mary Shelley Frankenstein. No. Yeah. And I was thinking, like, they're wanting to do this on stage, and they did like a reading and like kind of a staged version of this. Would you ever then take this and try to do a stage version of it?
For sure. I think that's definitely part of the vision.
That's for
where this goes. And these songs work in that way. And, again, I just want to go back to one of the things is, it's not like this is the first time that we've done something. It is the first time we've done something like this, but it's not uncommon for Evan and I to work with a director who's got a vision for a particular type of song or what the narrative says in the song, and then write from a brief or from a conversation with the director. So the only difference is normally we would do it once or twice. In this case, we did it 15 times. But I think there's always been a vision of this can work on stage as a musical.
Yeah, I mean, the songs like really hold up. I kept listening to certain songs and I was like, oh yeah, this could completely work. And I didn't know if that was always the plan from the very beginning. As we start winding down here, Evan, we were talking last time about your various Hollywood stories, which, hopefully you will write a gigantic book one day. But Justin, you come from Canada, obviously. We found out earlier. What is your craziest Hollywood story once you got out here in terms of the music business?
Tell them about the times you were hanging out with Rob Ford.
I don't remember those. Those were very, very hazy days. I plead on that.
A lot of smoke, yeah.
but let me tell you. Evan knows this story, and I'm going to tell the story, and my wife knows the story. I moved to LA in 2007, and at the end of 2007, right at the end, like I moved in like November, and like December, there was a record executive by the name of Jay Landers who was over at Sony, and he was having a party, and I got invited to this party. I wasn't even on the guest list. I was there as my plus one from my manager at the time. I get invited to this party, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to kind of meet people. And one of the first people I meet at the party is this guy that comes up to me. He's like, hey, I'm Evan. Like, you know him. He's a very gregarious guy. He says, hey, and then like,
who is that?
It was you.
Oh, I thought it was a different Evan.
It was you and Rob Ford. It was you and Rob Ford.
He doesn't remember either the Rob Ford day, but and so I came home and my wife was like, "How?" And Halo had just been a hit or was a hit or was that whatever. Like Evan was the belle of the ball for sure.
So this guy was just shitting money all over the place at this
crazy.
Party. Yeah, it was just.
Yeah, exactly. He was
as you do at Jay Landers parties.
Yeah, I mean, I was only doing coke with ones. He was doing them with hundreds. He was crazy. He was like,
by the way, I love that this is the craziest Hollywood story that you have. Is that I bumped into Evan?
The craziest Hollywood story is meeting me at Jay Landers' house.
Yeah, I was like, Evan has stories about Eminem getting his song. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I can't. I'm not gonna blow anybody. But the long and short of the story is, I met Evan. My wife, she's like, how did the day go? How was it? I'm like, cool. I met Evan Bogart and told her all about it. And then 4 years later, my manager, who was briefly my manager, different manager for like 10 seconds, calls me up one day and he says, hey, there's a songwriting camp here that's happening that Evan is doing. And the producer that was supposed to make it can't make it. Can you come and fill in for him? But it's only just for today. And I was like, yeah, for sure. I'm there. Let's go. And so I canceled my session. I went and did the session, and I had this whole great idea that I was going to just blow everybody away because I worked fast, and I knew that I was like, yes, I'm in. This is my moment. And I get to the session. There's a whole bunch of writers there, and I get to the session, and I get assigned the country room for the day. I'm writing the country song, and I'm like, no, this is not what I wanted to do. And so anyway, with a couple of writers who I had written with, we're okay writers. Anyway, at the end of the day, I'm driving home, and my man and I'm like, well, that was I guess that didn't work out. And then my manager calls me and says, Evan wants you to come back for the rest of the week, and he really wants to work with you. And that one day ended up becoming the song that we wrote, became the theme of the show, which ended up becoming, can you produce all of the songs for the show, which ended up, kind of was really the beginning of our creative partnership.
Yeah, that was the 15 years ago.
Yeah. Well, he's sitting here thinking that wasn't like anything and he wasn't going to come back. What did you see that made like him, like, he was
everything he just said that he would bring to the room, everything he'd bring to the session, that he was really good, really fast, really, really diverse, could deliver quickly and exceptionally. And you don't come across that often. So,
but he left there that day thinking.
Justin always says, like, there's that. What's the Venn diagram? It's quick,
but good, fast, and cheap.
Good, fast, and cheap, right? Yeah. And so, Justin's all three of them. I'm especially cheap. He's good. He's fast. He's good. He's fast, and in other ways, he's cheap.
Let's get you to good, fast, and moderately priced. Let's aim for that for this next thing. No, I mean, it truly is amazing. I geek out about everything that you guys do, obviously. And as we just have a couple more minutes left, in terms of what are you guys listening now, or who's moving the needle for you pop-wise in terms of music?
I think Evan is much more discerning than I am. Evan?
What?
So you're much more discerning than I am.
What are you listening to, or who's moving the needle for you?
Man. I'm like, it's less about artists for me. It's very rarely about an artist that's moving the needle. And by the way, that says something about music, because I grew up listening to artists, but it's really songs. When I hear songs, I'm very song based. I can hear an artist with one song that I'm like, this is perfect, and then hear the next song and be like, nah, I hate it. It's not like I'm in on the artist, right? So
wow.
I really just I connect with, I connect with, and I hate to sound like super commercial and corny doing this, but like, some of the stuff that Doechie's doing, Abracadabra, I think is like a perfect pop song. Like I could literally listen to it 100 times in a row. And that to me is up there with like, songs like Toxic, like songs that are just perfect pop songs, perfectly written pop songs. I like, I guess if you're thinking like an artist, I'm really enjoying kind of watching the Benson Boone evolution happen, like watching him, just on the Grammys and then to Coachella, and then just,
to just SNL last week.
To SNL. Yeah. It's kind of fun to watch him, because he's definitely a very talented singer, performer, and I guess gymnast. I
keep thinking he's going to hurt himself one of these days. Like, I'm like,
I keep thinking he's going to the 2028 Olympics.
Next, he's going to do like an Iron Cross on stage.
I saw this hockey. It's a hockey or it's soccer. It's a soccer game where people disco dance at the same time. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Tell me Benson Boone wouldn't kill that. He would literally be like the Ronaldo.
He'd be the Messi of disco soccer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. You guys need to write the theme for the Los Angeles 2028 Olympics.
Oh, I'd be
Speaking
so
of you guys need to write. So cool. Well, Justin, who are you listening to right now? Even I know you're not as discerning.
Sophie Gray.
Sophie Gray. And my daughter Sophie is kind of killing it right now. No, I was going to say, I actually I'm not going to speak about anything specific, but I would say that I feel like it feels like there's a renaissance in real artists and real music at the moment, and I'm very excited about that. There was definitely a period of time where it was a little bit corny and gimmicky, music was, and now I feel like, to Evan's point, there's people like Benson Boone, there's people like, I think Gracie Abrams is doing a great job, Lizzie McAlpine. I think there's a lot of real music at Claro. There's a lot of people that are
Claro. I love Claro.
Even Bia Badoobie. Like there's real musicality out there that's kind of making its way.
Can I tell you a song that resonates with me in such a deep way? Both
Baby Shark.
Baby Shark. Yeah. How'd you know? No, that both is so much my sense of humor, but also the artist herself is so fun and talented, and her music outside of this song actually is that. There's an artist do you know who Sophie Powers is?
No, I don't.
I love it. Totally.
She has a song to him. You know, STFU is like my jam, right?
Yeah.
I've watched every video of her performing that at Idol. I literally, if I'm just in a bad mood, I just watch her do that.
I just pulled her up. So Sophie Powers, you recommend Sophie Powers?
I love Sophie Powers, but because she's not only a talented pop artist, but also because her sense of humor is absolutely hilarious. And the fact that she's serious, but she also doesn't take herself so seriously is totally my jam.
Even just to pick up Evan for a second again, it was like the first time I heard "My Name Is" by Eminem, I was like, "Is this supposed to be comedy? Is this supposed to be serious?" Like, I have no idea what this is supposed to be, but it's just so good.
Yeah,
and I couldn't even put it together. Like, I could not fathom in my brain what it was trying to do. And I think Sophie Powers has a similar sensibility of like, is this supposed to be funny? Is this supposed to be like, I don't get it, but I
very cool.
Anyway. Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Very
that's
cool.
great. I'm sitting here listening to your album today, and then I was listening to like Warren Zevon. So like I was like all over the map.
Dude,
but
Warren Zevon is I mean, Halloween legend.
Truly, and Lawyers, Guns and Money, and like, anyways. And last time I was talking, your company had just maybe you were considering taking on Christopher Cross or his back catalog, and I thought that was amazing. So this is my time, you guys, but I wanted to like really stress the importance of you going to check out this film. It's Juliet and Romeo. I'm going to put all the little the little links in there so you can go find out where it's playing in your town. But most importantly, if it's not, you can go to Spotify or Apple Music and you can stream the album now, all 15 songs. I think it's going to take you on this kind of amazing roller coaster of emotions and experience and everything that you want, not just from a musical, but from a pop album as well. But just thank you guys so much for your time. I so appreciate your talents, and I hope this was okay for you today.
This is awesome, Ryan. So much fun. Thank you so much.
Well, how else do we support you guys, by the way? Is there anything else that the audience needs to do?
Evan has an OnlyFans. Evan has an OnlyFans. Don't forget. We do.
Come party with Evan.
Come check me out. Come check me out. I'm hanging out at the Bop House.
The fact that I actually know what the Bop House. Okay, we got to stop, you guys. The movie's Juliet, Romeo. You should check it out. Justin Gray, Evan the Kid Bogart. I hope to talk to you guys again one day, and congrats on this amazing work. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan. Take care.